call to order this meeting of the Susquehanna Township Board of Commissioners.
Recording in progress.
2024. All commissioners are present. We did meet in executive session to discuss matters of personnel and litigation. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance followed by a moment of silence. And tonight, Carl Hisser will lead us in the pledge. I appreciate it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. We'll begin with petitions, complaints, and suggestions from citizens. Does anybody wish to address the board tonight? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
This would be about the sidewalk?
Yeah, if you want to come to the microphone,
Yes.
please, and
Is this the
state your
time to do
name.
that?
What's that?
This is the time to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
State your name, address, and try to keep comments to 3 minutes because of the crowd.
Okay, and I don't have any experience in this, and I was invited yesterday, so I don't have any prepared
Okay,
letters.
fair enough.
My name's Mike Borman. I own Waterday Properties, among other buildings. We own 2020 40 Lingelstown Road, and we received a call that had to do with the possibility of us having to install a sidewalk on 2000 Lingelstown. And what came to mind was to request to come out and address everybody, just to state a few things about the last few years since the lockdowns, and talk about what it's been like to own office buildings, even the good ones that I have here at 2020 40. Every office building that we had during the lockdowns destabilized. That means that we were paying mortgages out of pocket. That went on for 24 to 38 months. Last month was the first month we had a profit since the lockdowns. We are 97% leased, and that surprises everybody. Well, how did that happen? Millions of dollars in capital expense, and the ability to lease up 180,000 square feet that went vacant out of 600,000. To say hardship would be an understatement. I've been working 80-hour weeks up until about 3 weeks ago when the last tenant moved in from all of this project. So the expenses have been astronomical. The cost, you could think of me possibly as like a restaurant. Many restaurants went out of business during the lockdowns. We didn't. Well, why didn't we go out of business? Fiscal responsibility and incredible hard work, or we wouldn't be. These buildings were destabilized. If we didn't bring in new tenants, there wouldn't be tenants, there wouldn't be rent, there wouldn't be mortgage payments. You can see that happening down here. These buildings are vacant. That's what happens when you're not at the till or you don't have the capital to do what we've done. So I simply wanted to stand with great respect and appreciation for the opportunity to speak off the cuff and say that it's a hardship to add now on top of all that. We're not done. We're going to lose 3 major tenants in those 2 buildings, and I will fill that space, and it will cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars to do so. Our 3 biggest tenants renewed. Fantastic, for 1 year, not 5, not 7. We're in month 8 of that year. We will get a letter that we're either downsizing or moving out. Every time that happens, it used to be a $20,000, $30,000 bill. To refit just a small suite in here is a minimum now of $40,000. It was $9,000 to build 1 office. It's now over 20. So it's a difficult business to be in. We're paying all of our taxes on time. We're doing everything right. You might not even know if I wasn't here complaining. But there's this, which is people that are not fiscally responsible, and there's this, which is people that are hard at the till, fiscally responsible. And I really feel that I'm being fiscally responsible coming here and requesting that this sidewalk program or project be put off for a while, at least as it relates to office buildings, because I'm certainly, any bank would tell you in this town, I'm leased up far better than anybody else. The best one I know of behind me is 85% leased. So I want to keep that going, and how am I going to keep it going? Well, staying as liquid as possible and focusing on the over doubling of the cost to do construction when you have a tenant move out and you need to find a new tenant. That's it. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board tonight? Okay. Hearing none, moving on to approval of minutes from our April 25th.
Mr. President, I'd like to move for approval of the April 25th, 2024 workshop minute meeting.
Moved by Commissioner Hisro, seconded by Commissioner Sanderson. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Reports of committees, buildings and grounds. Commissioner Rothrock.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you. Budget and Finance, Commissioner Sanderson.
Yes, we did it. We did have our initial meeting for the year. Did some preliminary overview, looked at the first quarter. We are at 26% expense, which is great because that's exactly where we should be and expected. So thank you to staff. We are going to meet probably, I guess, in July. That's not set yet. So more news to come. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Public Works, Commissioner Napper.
Yes, Mr. President. In the month of April, maintenance staff assist in tree planting for Arbor Day at the Sarah Lindman Elementary School, plus perform tree and limb removal due to the recent windstorm at the intersection of Paxton Church Road and Chuck Mill Hill Road. As a final note, Mr. President, street sweeping schedule begins the week of June 3rd and will end September 6th. The odd number address side of the street will be swept on the day following trash collection. And on the following week, beginning June 10th, the even numbers will be swept. The odd even pattern will continue throughout the summer. Street sweeping schedule can be found on the township website. This ends my report, sir.
Thank you. Health and Sanitation, Commissioner Barczyk.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next pickup of yard waste by Penn Waste will be conducted Saturday, May 18th. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Admin and Personnel, Commissioner Napper.
Yes, Mr. President. Admin personnel met May 7th to discuss current vacant positions within the township and review, the Susquehanna Township organizational chart for all departments. As a final note, Mr. President, committee began to discuss the recruitment to conduct an executive search of the township manager. This ends my report, sir.
Thank you. Police, Commissioner Engel.
No report.
Thank you. Fire and EMS, Commissioner Hisro.
Mr. President, no formal report other than we just got, as you know, the fire study recently, and a lot of good recommendations to digest and determine how to move forward. So a lot of work ahead of us, but it was, I thought, a very good report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Planning and Zoning, Commissioner Rothrock.
Thank you, Mr. President. There was a Planning Commission meeting held on the 22nd of April. There were two items that were discussed at that meeting. The first was the multifamily complex ordinance amendment, which is a zoning text amendment for establishing an MU1 mixed-use corridor high-density zoning district. After some discussion, it was tabled for revisions and further comment. The second item was the state institution overlay ordinance map amendment, which is a zoning text and map amendment for the purpose of establishing a new overlay zoning district associated standards for development of the state hospital grounds with a Commonwealth lab facility. This also was tabled for comments and further review. There was a zoning hearing board meeting on the 1st of May. There were two items on the agenda. One was 1536 Dogwood Drive, which is in the 9th Ward. This was an application from a homeowner for variance to permit an accessory structure, which was a small freestanding greenhouse that would cause the property to further exceed the 40% maximum impervious lot coverage. That variance was approved. The second item was 3801 Walnut Street, which is a continuing hearing. The township's attorney concluded our case against the approval of variances for parking, and the board requested rebriefs from both attorneys, and will render a decision at their hearing on July 3rd. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. School Board, Commissioner Floden.
Mr. President, I'd like to report that Ian Thomas was appointed school board director to replace the resigned Mr. Cannonball for the rest of his term. But that's my report.
He seems like a good guy.
Yes.
Good appointment. Authority, Commissioner Napper.
Yes, Mr. President. Last month, I reported an authorization to proceed was issued to the sewer emergency repair project on Gallen Road in the Mountaindale development. Rogale Incorporated has replaced the sanitary sewer line and service laterals to the curb on Gallen Road. And as a final note, Mr. President, maintenance personnel were called out to the Apple Tree pumping station for a lag pump alarm. Staff arrived on site and found the floats were defective. Pump number 1 was replaced properly. The pump was replaced and covered under warranty. This ends my report, sir.
Thank you, sir. Shade Tree, Commissioner Cross.
I have no report.
Okay. We had a great Arbor Day celebration. Really nice. Communications, Commissioner Barczyk.
No report, thank you.
We have a next newsletter coming out, I guess.
It's scheduled to be mailed on May 20th.
May 20th. Good. Human Relations, Commissioner Cross.
Again, no report for human relations
Or Human
or
Resources.
human resources.
Not even sure what that is, but anyway, it's there. Parks and Rec, Commissioner Flona.
No report on Parks and Rec, but I'd like to remind the public that June 2nd is our tour de dog. So we look forward to seeing you ride or volunteer for that matter.
Okay, thank you. Ordinances, resolutions, et cetera. Resolution 24R16, which is a grant application to the Department of Community and Economic Development for Strategic Management and Planning Program, also previously known as something else. Anyway, Dave, you want to take that away?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The board has with your agenda this evening a copy of the resolution to authorize the submittal of a grant application to the Department of Community and Economic Development in their Strategic Management Planning Program. As the President indicated, this used to be known as their Early Intervention Program. It is now eligible for all municipalities, even those that are not financially distressed or necessarily in danger of becoming distressed, to apply. The Commonwealth has had such great success with this program, and because of the significant costs to the state when a municipality goes into Act 47, has even made some counties as eligible applicants, as I understand, to this program. The township's never been through this. I've never been through this, but I've had a number of colleagues who have and spoken to other peer groups, and it's very highly regarded. The process is really multi-step. This would be taking step 1. It would involve the engagement of a consultant to produce a roadmap really for maintaining financial sustainability in the township, enhancing service delivery, managing operational and capital needs, etc. This will provide as the board has expressed an interest in the past, a multi-year projection, a multi-year budget. So, I think this checks a number of boxes of goals that have been established by the Board of Commissioners. Assistant Manager Betsy Logan would be taking the lead on this project, as well as the submission of the grant application. And again, the goals are to reduce expenditures, to augment our revenues, and to develop some best management practices for good governance, including consideration of intergovernmental cooperation where advantageous. Staff is recommending the board adopt the resolution this evening. Thank you.
And Mr. President, I'd like to move to adopt the resolution authorizing our township manager to submit the DCED application Strategic Management Planning Program.
Second.
Moved by Hisro and seconded by Sanderson. Any comments or questions?
Do we have a specific program or project that this grant is associated with?
It's for a strategic management plan.
I'm sorry?
It's for a strategic management plan, so it'd be looking more at the function of our government, our financial security, and what we can do to augment that. But it's not a specific location. It's specifically for the township administration.
it's a review of governance. It can
Is it-
be,
Are we gonna hire a consultant for that, or? is it gonna
it
be
usually
internal?
comes through DCED.
The grant request will be to hire, for funding to hire a consultant to prepare the report.
Yeah.
Is there like a dollar amount range for this?
Well, not necessarily, but the township has $25,000 to put up as local match in your 2024 annual budget. But there are scenarios where DCED has fully funded that first round of programming. I think, to Commissioner Rothrock's point, you can augment this plan with specific projects. For example, if public safety or the fire station was something that you wanted them to emphasize, you might condition that as part of your request for proposals, and that may contribute to some of the total cost of the engagement. But we can develop that scope of work after we're awarded the grant and before we issue that RFP to begin to consult selection.
If it deals with both sides of finance, I can imagine that not only in terms of enhancing revenue, but stopping loss of revenue. I mean, we could attach, some kind of expression of interest that come up with a game plan for monitoring and challenging reassessments that are happening all around us. Formalize the process so that utilizing best practices that would help us guide us the way to do it.
Mr. President, to add to all of that, this is as granular a study as you might want or not. It's driven by the interest of the municipality because it's the municipality that drives the application in the first place. So by those rules, it's also the responsibility of the municipality to implement the study after it's done or not. This is not a top-down approach from the state. There are too many municipalities for the state to govern everybody. This is supposed to be helpful, and it shouldn't waste anyone's time because you only apply if you think it could be useful. So the application itself is the most important part, I would say. Doing it is a very thoughtful step for future management purposes.
And undertaking the study, as I understand it, and I've been through one of these with another municipality, once you finish it and start implementing, as Sean said, some of the recommendations that come up from the consultant, you put yourself into a position to apply for other grant streams that otherwise wouldn't be available to you had you not completed the program. So that's helpful. Any other comments or questions? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Staff reports, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. My report is in your packet. There is also a memorandum appended to the report summarizing the field study that Public Works Director Bragunier and I conducted in April. You may recall that we had some residents from Long Avenue where a recent ordinance was adopted to establish parking prohibitions. They had some concerns about that ordinance and restriction. Staff was directed to go out and evaluate the conditions there and determine if there were any way to resolve some of those concerns. The memorandum suggests, and I believe the Public Works Director and Public Safety Director would agree with me, that the prohibition is effective. There are alternatives for the property owners along that alleyway to park their vehicles safely off-street and also avoid conflicts with our snow vehicles and plow trucks and our street sweepers and first responders. So we are comfortable with the conditions that are out there presently. We'll continue to monitor, but there's no recommendation for further action at this time. Other than that, that concludes my report. I'll answer any questions you might have.
All right. Any questions of the manager? Hearing none. Public safety. I notice Augie's up there on the screen remotely. Do you have anything, Augie?
I do not, sir.
Rough.
I want to see the picture.
All right. Community and Economic Development, Ms. Logan.
Thank you. My report's in front of you as part of your packet. I will note that I added a key highlights at the recommendation of Mr. Napper. He had presented one similar, so I thought it'd be helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, let me know.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I do have a question, if I may. Do you have any update on where we are with the small area plan for the Front and Sixth Street corridor? Like we were.
Yeah, so
happy
we're
about
still in the
the
process of
program.
applying for funding because we didn't budget enough.
Right.
So we had to get a grant. We did not get the real estate grant that we'd applied for.
I remember that. Did we find another grant to apply for?
We can apply for a MAP grant, I believe, through DCED as well. But that application hasn't started yet.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Public Works, do you have anything, Nate?
Commissioner Napper did an amazing job. I have nothing.
Isn't he awesome?
Oh, guys are so nice.
Engineering, yeah.
The board has my report. If there's any questions, I can answer.
They're digging out at Boyd Park.
They're moving.
I was gonna ask that.
Yeah, yeah.
What are they digging?
Well, I mean, they're digging.
In the wetland.
They got a piece of equipment, woods over there.
Yeah, Flyway Excavating mobilized this week, so construction's ramping up and they'll be installing the trail here shortly.
Trees looking good too.
Trees are installed, 14 trees. Yeah.
Is there gonna be a sidewalk over the wetland? Is that still part of it?
A boardwalk, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good, that'll complete the loop
That'll
around it.
complete the loop.
Nice. All right, thank you. Law Bureau. Everything is fine.
Nothing, thank you.
Parks and Rec, Mr. Canals.
We talked about Boyd Park, so.
That's all I got. Boyd
Let me
Parks.
steal your thunder.
The rest of my report is, you have it.
All right, old business. Advertisement for a public hearing on the state institution overlay proposal, proposed ordinance. Which is Logan. Mr. Provoca.
Sorry.
Jump ball.
Trying to turn my page, it's not working. So provided with your agenda is the draft state institution overlay ordinance that's proposed for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania State Hospital grounds. Both the Township Planning Commission and Dauphin County Planning Commission have conducted initial reviews of the draft. We received comments from Dauphin County Planning Commission. We're still receiving some written comments from our Planning Commission on that. But the Dauphin County ones are included in your agenda. Some of the changes that they're looking for, I think, make sense to us. Mac provided a staff report kind of with recommendations on what we'd like to see. So at this time, we're looking to wait to schedule the public hearing until those changes are made and have the Planning Commission provide a recommendation for you, because they have not seen those yet.
Okay.
So they'll
No
see those
action
on the,
item tonight?
no action tonight, yeah. They'll see those on the 20th. And then we'll have enough time to still advertise by, if you guys take action on the 23rd, to have the public hearing on the same date of June 13th. So if there's any discussion you want to have over Dauphin County's comments or Mac's staff report, I'd be happy to
Does
answer.
anybody have any comments on the reports Betsy referenced?
What did you, with the planning commission, you said they postponed?
They tabled it.
Tabled it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
So
think
the
everybody
planning-
had a chance to go through it, and we were looking for comments.
Per the MPC, the Municipalities Planning Code, once it goes to the Planning Commission, our Planning Commission, that triggers the 30-day review by the Dauphin County Planning Commission. So while we can review it and make comments, we're not getting like the county's review until that 30 days is up. So when our meeting is and their schedule of their meetings, they just provided us their comments, but they had some, our Planning Commission had some discussion on it. However, they didn't make any recommendations because we're still waiting to hear back from the county.
But so, what do we want to wait now until until the planning commission meets again and perhaps makes a recommendation before we, I'm
Yeah,
just
I
trying to
think
figure out.
Dave and I, we originally had it before we got the worded this way that the we were requesting for the public hearing decision, but after we got the county's comments back, we pulled back, and so now we're not requesting for the public hearing to be
Oh, okay.
recommended on yet until the planning commission has done their full review.
Okay, I didn't pay, okay, that makes sense, okay.
So that meeting would likely be set at the workshop meeting? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. I think when you schedule the public hearing, the ordinance really ought to be substantively in the same form that it will be in when the advertisement is presented. So I think that the two salient changes in the version that's in your agenda packet compared to the comments that were submitted by the Dauphin County Planning Commission include the impervious area allowance of 70%, as well as the parking standards, which are now proposed at 1 per 500 square feet of space.
Yeah, and
Gross floor area. And the county planning commission's recommending that be increased to 1 per 1,000.
1 per 1,000, which is consistent with our other laboratory services.
We don't expect that the Commonwealth will have any objection to either of those changes, but we would want to confirm that with them as they were the applicant that submitted the request. If they do, that may be a delay in consideration of this ordinance, but that'll come down to whether the board believes that you're comfortable moving forward with the ordinance as presented, or whether you want to incorporate some of the changes that were recommended by staff and the Dauphin County Planning Commission.
Any other comments, questions? All right, hearing none. New business, consent agenda. There are multiple items. Statement of bills paid, authorization to hire seasonal park maintenance staff, authorization to hire truck driver laborer in the person of Alan Mathis, whom we met tonight, authorization to hire full-time clerical staff for the police department, authorization to purchase Lafayette Instrument LX6S polygraph machine, application for payment number 13, admin office renovations in the amount of $5,336. Application for payment number 14, admin office renovation in the amount of $10,708.50. Acceptance of the resignation of the township manager and appointment of civil service commissioner alternate. Do we have, and we can discuss those once we get done.
So moved.
Second. Moment and a second. Moved by Commissioner Engel, seconded by Commissioner Sanderson. Any comments on any of those? H.
Denied.
Any other wisecracks? Okay, hearing none, it's moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is approval of engagement with Keystone Municipal Solutions to conduct executive management recruitment for the position of township manager vacancy. As we just alluded to in the consent agenda, we're going to be losing our manager to better places and better things, and we wish him well. And we need to gear up and make sure that somebody of that caliber and quality is able to fill in and take over. So we've done this before, and it's a whole lot easier and probably more efficient, and definitely more efficient, when you have the assistance of somebody that does this for a living and has tons of contacts throughout the Commonwealth and beyond. So we have a proposal submitted to us by Keystone Management Municipal Solutions, and it's before you. And the chair would look for a motion at this point.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Commissioner Engel. Sorry, Sean.
Keep beating me.
Yep. Any comments or questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is authorization to advertise public hearing on an ordinance directing the property owner of 2000 Lincolnstown Road, tax parcel 62013006, to install a sidewalk on Crooked Hill Road. Mr. Volk.
Hey, Mr. President. The board heard from the property owner earlier this evening about this specific issue. As it was indicated in the preamble, the Public Works Committee has discussed a concern raised about a missing segment of sidewalk on the eastern side of Crooked Hill Road. This is adjacent to the office complex owned by Mr. Borman of 2000, Chambers Hill Road, 2000 Associated LLC of Chambers Hill Road. This missing segment is a hazard. There's pedestrians that use that missing link of sidewalk for various reasons in various seasons. The segment is about 280 lineal feet. The first-class township code allows the Board of Commissioners to adopt an ordinance to direct the adjacent property owner to install the missing sidewalk with at least 60 days of notice to comply. It could be longer, but that's your minimum. Staff is recommending that the board authorize the advertisement of a public hearing for Thursday, June 13th, 2024, to consider enactment of the ordinance.
Mr. President.
At the 6:30 time slot.
6:30 time slot, right?
Commissioner Barcheck?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Giving what we heard from the property owner, just to give us some more time to consider options, I would like to make a motion to table this item.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? So your thought is to table it for more information to come in? I'm just trying to understand what we're being asked to vote on.
Because we're only authorizing for a public hearing, correct?
Well, I was just going to ask, are we just having a hearing to gain more facts, or actually to make a recommendation? If we're just having a hearing to gain more facts and get positions without making a final recommendation, that would be different for me. That I would be okay with that. But I'm trying to get like a clarification what we're going to do with that public hearing that night. What's our expectations?
So, I mean, typically the board would consider action on an ordinance at the conclusion of the public hearing once you receive testimony and any comments from the public that may wish to present. That's not a requirement that you do so. If you wanted to conduct the public hearing for the purposes of just receiving additional testimony and then consider action on an ordinance at a later meeting, you certainly could.
Any other comments or questions?
I do have a question, or a comment, I guess. Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Barcheck on the gentleman's statement. We don't know what expense it would be for that person to have to do that. And Carl brought up a good point too. If we're just having a hearing to determine, we're going to move forward, or are we going to make a decision that night? I kind of sympathize with the property owner, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be a heck of a cost for that property owner, and I think to his credit, he's trying to keep his properties moving, and I kind of got the vibe that he's not necessarily against putting them in at some point, but I think he's asking for more time so that he can get himself in a better position financially to be able to do this sidewalk. And that, for that reason, I agree with tabling, and for that reason.
Any other comments?
We just are in the process of finalizing our pedestrian bicycle plan for the township. And I think that's out of a recognition that as we get more urbanized, we're going to need to address those means of transportation. I think historically, we've been really emphasizing the automobile and basing our transportation systems on the automobile. And I mean, that's fine. I guess if you're a suburban community where you have to get in a car to do anything. But I think things are changing, and we recognize that we need to address this issue. And one of the issues that I see in my ward and in many other wards is that we've got sections of property that have no sidewalk that are in between properties that do. And that's for a variety of reasons. I don't want to, criticize anybody in the past for decisions that were made, but that's where we are today. So if we're going to find a way to address that issue, this looks to be maybe not the best approach, but it is an approach. And if we are going to try to address that issue, then we need to maybe take a step forward and consider, things like, well, who's going to pay for it, and where's the money going to come from, and all that, as part of addressing that issue. So the way I'm looking at this, and of course it's in my ward, so I probably don't have an unbiased view, but I just see it as a step down the road that we're trying to address pedestrian and bike transportation, mobility in our township. And I think it's an important step. And I guess this guy kind of got selected because I brought it up, because I lived over there and I had that issue. But I don't want to seem like we're singling out one particular individual and just making them bear the burden of this. I think we're going to have to find a way to get these infills done that makes sense and is affordable for the property owners beyond this one property. So I think moving down this road, however we do it, and I'm not opposed to tabling it and considering it down the road. That's fine. But I think we need to begin to move forward on that issue.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
Sorry, I do agree that we do need sidewalks, and the first ward is a patchwork of missing sidewalks every couple properties as well. The reason I wanted to table it, I feel like it could be very productive to have meaningful conversation, productive conversations with the owner and figure out where to go with this before we spend money on advertising and holding a hearing and all the costs that are involved with that, when maybe we can arrive at a solution by talking to the owner. As someone else indicated, he didn't say he was opposed to it. It's just a matter of a time frame. And I'm just hopeful that the township can work with him to reach the solution we want that works for all of us.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
if the commissioner from the first ward would consider amending her motion to adopt that sentiment, I would appreciate it. To instruct township staff to engage with the property owner on this topic.
Including possible options for
Yes.
financing.
Yes,
That's-
not merely a tabling of the of the discussion of the public hearing, but a tabling of the discussion simultaneously to be held with discussions with the property owner.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mr. President?
that was the point.
So this is actually great conversation piece for us because tabling it with, like directing the staff to really look into all the options available to us, to even assist property owners in providing these amenities for the township. And it's really kind of adds to, as we're about to finalize our master plan for bicycle, pedestrian, and freeway projects, right? So this will actually help us figure out, okay, we have a master plan, and these are the ways that we can fund these things. So it kind of makes this big project for us much better to implement township.
Well, just understand that there's a lot of sidewalks on property, private property throughout the township, or in front of private property throughout the township. And for the township to, to work with this guy in good faith would be great, especially since it's coming out of right field at him, and, but there is a public safety issue. There's a pedestrian study that we put together and approved, and we're moving to implement, and, to open the door to me, to anybody in the township to come in and say, hey, I want to put in sidewalk, or you're making me do a sidewalk for aesthetic reasons, for public safety reasons, is really opening the door to a Pandora's box of trouble. It's one thing to, if he came to us and say, hey, I want to do the sidewalk, as he indicated, but not now because I'm still recovering from COVID, business-wise. That's one thing. But to just, come up with a de facto policy that's going to affect the whole township and the way we enforce our right and sometimes obligation under the first-class township code, I think is a box that we don't want to open, just for me.
Well, and it's a,
We're all in favor of sidewalks, don't get me wrong, I know that. But it's how you get from point A to point B, I think. And personally, I probably should get in there and talk, but, I think if we table it and hold ourselves to a deadline to actually consider it, renew it, that's doing our due diligence for the second ward neighbors who walk on that side of the street. That serves the whole east end of your path, right? And there's a giant there now to go to. There's a 97% occupied office building.
And there's a signalized crosswalk.
There's a signalized crosswalk with a walkway, So, anyway.
Do we table it perhaps with a 60-day window or 90-day, something?
Oh, well,
to
we have a
give
motion on the table.
Because, I know, but in terms of amending, because we've just amended it, but in terms of providing guidance, in terms of, so that we move this forward and not delay. That I was hearing you indicate that, we don't want to put this off forever. So do we, would it help to put a timeline in there? I'm just asking.
Yeah, sure. That'd be helpful, but there's nothing holding us to that.
Parliamentary procedure, I defer to the Law Bureau. Parliamentary procedure means we can take something off the table at will.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if the board's not ready, that's fine, if we're not ready to move forward. In my view, we have first-class township code behind us, we have our own ordinances, everybody knows their obligation, God knows whether the owner of Clydeville was given a waiver all those years ago, in the 70s or 80s, whenever it was built. But we still have a public safety issue, and for us to search for a master solution for something that can be resolved in person, I think is questionable, but.
well, the property is located across from a school, and not every property that we would require to put sidewalks in is near a school, and that would qualify for grants
Right.
to place the sidewalk. So it's a unique situation.
Right.
Yeah, just from my own perspective, we're just talking about taking a little bit of time to talk to the owner with his staff and figure out if there's options available before we have our public hearing, so that we have more facts before us, which I think would be a good thing.
Gary, will you keep us honest?
Me?
Yeah, you, Mr. Second Ward?
I guess so. I'll look out for my constituents.
All right.
If we move forward with this, and if we had moved forward and everything went ahead and it was approved, there's no guarantee he would put a sidewalk in anyway, because we had an instance in the first ward where they wanted to subdivide, and we granted them that right, but they had to put in sidewalks, so they just completely did nothing. So for us to have a hearing and tell him he has to put sidewalks in doesn't mean we'll get sidewalks. That's why I just thought it might be good to work with them and see if we can somehow reach some kind of agreement.
Okay.
I agree.
Any other comments? Can we do a roll call vote, Dave, please?
Absolutely. Just might be the first one that we've ever done.
Yeah.
Christmas morning. Okay. Commissioner Robarczyk,
Yes.
Commissioner Rothrock,
Yes.
Commissioner Hisaro,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanderson.
Yes.
President Lynch,
No.
Commissioner Fialona,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Napper.
Yes.
All right, keep us honest, Gary.
Okay.
All right. That is the last item on our agenda, aside from commissioner comments. Let's talk about sidewalks.
How
about a grant for uprooted sidewalks?
Yeah.
Like this. And I'd like to note that the clock is fixed.
Yes, Fred, that's a very good point. I think DCD has a very large low-interest loan program for neighborhoods to fix sidewalks. Darn if I can remember the name of it.
And I really like what the Commissioner Rothrock mentioned, the SRTS, the Safe Routes Schools. That and some other grants, because when we start implementing our master plan for sidewalks,
Yeah.
it can help us really, okay, we have this plan and there's this funding that we actually can tap.
So, if you need help finding it, let me
Yeah.
know. But it's not a grant program, it's low-interest loan. But it's large loan, might be useful, but not just for this particular circumstance. It's a large enough loan that it could potentially be used for entire neighborhoods, because we have some township runs north to south. The southern part of the township is older and might have more infrastructure needs. So, especially for budgeting purposes.
Let me ask you this, is the case for a grant or loan strengthened if there's an action like the one we're taking?
Yes.
So right now, if we went for that kind of loan, we wouldn't have access to it because there's
No,
no,
you just have a higher chance of it if you,
there's a,
if there's a plan or an
There's an
idea.
order.
Yeah.
just thought, whatever strengthens our hands in terms of financial assistance.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Anything else before we turn to Fred and Sean?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, yeah. Who's second? Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Recording stopped.
We're out of here.
All right.